I'm back, part 2. This is the custom gauge cluster build. We're going to be primarily working on some wiring right now, and I'm just going to show you how to have like a clean little setup, and some pointers and some ideas, so that if you do decide to do this, maybe you guys can take some of my tips. But yeah, so we got a lot of work. Let's get to it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and cut off the plug. This is again the center plug. The plug that connects behind the speedometer and the tach. So we're going to go ahead and cut it off. I already labeled them on my previous video, so we're just going to go off the labels. So yeah, we're just going to cut off right here. Leave enough so just in case you want to reuse the harness, you can re-splice them back together, solder them, and it'll be like brand new. But again, for my application, I won't need it, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Let's do it right here. Alright, so with that being cut off, now we got a bunch of wires here that we can play with. So I'm looking for the left signal flasher. So this is the left-right ground, it's not the one, and here it is. So this is the left flasher power signal, and I'm gonna go ahead and strip it down. So what we can do is, since I already labeled it, there's 2 labels on here. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna cut it right here. I know it's repetitive, but this is just what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut it here. Use my wire stripper, and we're gonna go ahead and strip this wire like so. And this one's gonna be ready for a wire. Maybe we can go a little bit more. This more that I can work with. Alright, so there it is. Alright, and I'm gonna also need the right signal. So this is the left. I'm looking for the right flasher, which is right here. Again, gonna cut it off right at the sticker. I know, repetitive. Use your wire stripper. I'm gonna do the same length this time, hopefully. If I get it right. Well, that was a fail, but more wire. I can use it. Okay, come on. Alright. So there it is, wire. Now, the object of doing this is that you're gonna want to connect your power wire from your left and right flasher to the corresponding plug. So here it is. Alright, so here it is, left right flasher. So you're gonna flip it, okay? Don't go saying this is your left, or your right, whichever, because you don't want to get it wrong. So left signal, left flasher, let's go ahead and hold it. There's your left. What you're gonna do is you can connect it to your left flasher right here. Okay, so theoretically we only need a couple like inches or so of this wire. They give you a long wire supplied by the company, but I'm thinking like that should be sufficient right there. We don't need that. I'm gonna go ahead and strip this wire down. Okay. Alright. Now what you're gonna do is connect it to your left wire like so. Okay, maybe you can go a little bit more on that one. Yeah, let's go a little bit more. You don't want to have that problem where you have too small of a wire to work with. So, alright, so left, left. Go ahead and do this. What you're going to do is you're going to twist them first, and then we're going to solder it. Oh, before we do that, almost forgot one more step. I'm going to heat shrink mine instead of electrical taping it together. I just feel like heat shrink is going to be a little bit, you know, a little more cleaner of an install. So before you solder, you put your heat shrink on, because once you solder it, you're pretty much screwed. You can't put the heat shrink, okay? So we're just gonna do like that. That's gonna be fine. Okay. I think it's gonna be too big, but oh well. Bigger the better. So you put the heat shrink, doesn't matter which side, as long as you have heat shrink on, okay? Then you're gonna go ahead and twist these two wires together. Okay. Like so. Alright. Now, what you're gonna do, now that these wires are together, you're gonna lay some solder down, okay? And then you're gonna put the heat shrink over and heat it up. We're gonna do that for all the wires, okay? So, doesn't matter which one you're doing, you're gonna do, gonna strip one wire, strip the other wire, then you're gonna put a heat shrink in, solder, and then finally lock it down, lock it up with a heat shrink, okay? That's one way to do it. You can use butt connectors if you so desire for quicker install. You can do that. So pretty much what you're gonna do is, let me just use this for an example. So you'll have your one wire stripped, your other wire stripped, you put them inside these butt connectors and you crimp them down and bam, you're done. You can do that. That's another way. For me, I'm just not gonna do that. I just want a cleaner look. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick with this. Originally, I was trying to solder them, but then I figured, what if I needed to change the bulb? That means I have to cut the solder and redo it again. So I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and use these little connectors here. So here's a male end, female end, so it'll be like a plug and play. So if I do need to replace like any one of these bulbs, or LEDs, I can just simply only have to do is unplug and just really replace only one of the connectors. So yeah, alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and just do that, and then I'll show you the finished product once I'm done. Alright guys, so here's the finished product. I went ahead and heat shrinked it also for added protection. So it's right there. If I can just grab this right here. So it's right there. So now I'm just going to do the female end on the actual plugs itself right here. And we should be good to go. Alright, I'll show you the finished product on that. Alright, so here's the finished product for the positive leads to the indicators. So here it is. Female ends, all but connected and heat shrinked. And then here are all the male ends on the actual harness itself. So there it is. All I gotta do now is just plug it into the corresponding indicators, following what I labeled, and these should power up. The ground, I'm gonna work on the ground right now. It's gonna be just this one and this one. So pretty much that's it. All right. Next, we're gonna be doing the gauges. So let's get to it. So these are 52s, and the middle one is a 60. I already did this one as a trial, but I'm going to show you how to do it for the rest of it. You get them cut out to 52 because that's obviously the size of the gauges. But the problem is that when you put in the gauge, it'll just slide on right out. So a quick little tip is to get some electrical tape. And what you're going to do is you're going to just go around, literally just put tape down and go around it just once, like one revolution. That should give it enough thickness right here so that when you install the gauge, it's going to be a snug fit in the holder. So let me go try to do that, and then I'm going to show you what I mean. So yeah, 1 second. Cool, here we go. So if you put too much tape, you're going to get too much thickness on the gauge, and you're not going to be able to go through and install it. So one revolution is pretty good. The best way to check it, obviously, is to flip it over. As you can see here, I don't have anything holding the gauges down. There's no, you know, bracket or clamps or anything like that. So, if I do this, and the gauges fall out, that means you're still not at the right thickness, and the gauges are still loose. Obviously, you can see here, mine aren't falling out. Shaking it, not falling out. So, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install my other gauge. It's going to be my, is that a boost gauge? Yeah, my boost gauge. It's going to go right next to the RPM, the tack. I still have one open, I just don't know what I want to use, but I went ahead and pre-cut it just because I know I'm going to be using 4 total gauges. So anyways, how am I going to secure it? So my idea is that once I get it down, I'm going to use like some hot glue and just lay down some like little spots like that. I won't damage the gauge because I'm only going to be gluing in the spots where the tape is at. So there's tape right here. You can clearly see it on this one. You can't see it, it's black on black. You can't really tell. But this is a silver gauge and this is the black electrical tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put some hot glue tacks like that. And that's going to secure the gauge to the gauge holder and I should be fine. Then we're going to go ahead and once we get that gauge, all the 3 gauges I have on, then we're going to go ahead and tackle the wiring next. Alright. So I'm going to show you exactly what I was explaining on that last clip is here. So there's the gauge, it's a 52 mil, that's a 52 mil cutout. When you put the gauge down, as you can see, there's like a lot of play. So hence, that's the reason why I'll wrap it with 1 revolution of electrical tape and get a snug fit. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then this should be done as part of the gauge install. Alright, so here it is. I positioned the gauges, and I also laid down some hot glue, like tacks, I guess you can say, just so that it reinforces the gauge, holding it into the gauge panel. You don't have to go all the way around. All you really need is just a little glue. It goes a long way. I mean, working with hot glue gets kind of messy, but as soon as it dries, you can clean it up, and then yeah. So that right there should be enough for these gauges not to move. Again, it's a non-moving part. So before moving forward, I just went ahead and decided to do a top and a bottom, like hot glue. Little weld tack thing. So on the top of the gauges they all have the hot glue as well. So one right there, one right there, and one right there, and then obviously the ones on the bottoms that I showed you before. Wait for that dries up. It's gonna be pretty quick. Clean it up and then onto the harnesses. So before I decided to install the harnesses, because it's pretty much just plug and play for each gauge, I had to tackle this fitting here. This is going to be the vacuum source for your boost gauge. I had the toughest time putting this thing on. There's a ferrule nut, or a ferrule is what it's called, that needs to slide onto this nylon tubing. And I had the toughest time sliding that thing on there. So unfortunately I didn't have any video on there on how to do it. But I'm going to draw it out and try to explain to you what that ferrule does. It's a pretty simple idea. That ferrule, let's just say it's like a little ring around this tubing, and then the compression nut is what's going to grab onto that or catch it, and as you tighten down onto the fitting, onto your boost gauge, it's going to grab that ferrule, and the ferrule is a snug fit onto this nylon tubing. So as it catches the ferrule, and as you compress down more, what happens is it's going to actually compress and make sure that this tubing here is a tight fit into the fitting onto your boost gauge, so you get the correct boost reading from your turbo. So, cartoon time. I'm going to try to draw it out for you and explain to you what it does, or what I was having a tough time doing. So the ferrule looks like a stop sign, okay? Looks like this. Let me get a better look on that. Alright, so the ferrule looks like a stop sign. Okay, like that. Now, the nylon tubing goes into here. Okay, I had the toughest time putting this on, so I took it off and I went ahead and installed the compression nut already. It's like the same concept as, you know, like before you do like heat shrink, you want to make sure you put the heat shrink on, because then when you like connect the wires through soldering, you can't slide the heat shrink, you know what I'm saying, because then it's already connected. So I put the compression nut on first. Then I had the toughest time getting this ferrule on, but I finally got it. And then what you want is that you want to have the ferrule high enough to where it's just above the fitting. So the fitting on the boost gauge will look like this, has some threadings on there. The ferrule is going to sit right here. Okay, you want to have it just a little bit above that mating surface, because what you're going to do is you're going to compress that ferrule into the boost gauge using the compression nut. So the compression nut's going to go over here like so, and as you screw down, it's going to catch the ferrule, and the ferrule is going to screw down, and when the ferrule meets the mating surface, it's going to have a nice snug fit, as you can see right here. Snug fit. I didn't lift it. That's what you want. You know, obviously it's a boost gauge, so you don't want any kind of leaks, right? So there it is. So after the fitting, I went ahead and plugged in all the gauges with their respective harnesses. Like I said, it's a plug and play affair. You can't get this wrong, to be honest with you. Yeah, so I mean, there's really nothing much to it, but you know, after you install the gauge, you secure it down, and then all you got to do is just plug it up. So the hard part now, you know, is like just routing it and making sure you make a nice little clean setup, you know, for your harness. If you bought them used, you're gonna probably have to go online and do some research to find out what each wire means. But if you buy them new, you know, obviously it's gonna come with a wiring harness. So one of them I bought new, and the other two I bought used. But I went ahead and already did the research, and I found out which wires are which. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm just routing some of these wires, the harnesses, and then trying to make it like a nice little clean install. You don't want to bend the nylon too much, because you'll kink it. I mean, it's pretty much plastic. So you just want to keep it out the way, but I'm also using the harness as like a brace to keep it, you know, in somewhat of a fashion right here. So it's connected to this harness right here. Yeah, just don't bend it. You don't want to kink it. And yeah, so now my next plan is to connect the harness that I made from the existing OEM harness to the corresponding plugs. As far as connecting the gauges, it's pretty much a power ground. Here's the finished product. Red for the power, black for the ground. I put some heat shrink on there. These are the female lens. The male lens will be connected to the OEM wiring harness. And I think the only thing I have left is to plug up the tach signal from my tachometer to the tach signal from the ECU coming off of the OEM sub cluster harness. And I'll be doing the same thing, you know, use the female end and the male end plugs. I'm going to go ahead and heat shrink them. The completed modified sub cluster harness, the OEM one. Again, these two plugs you don't even touch. This right here is the harness for the gauges. I try to clean them up as much as possible. I didn't really want to cut as far as, you know, cutting all these OEM connectors off. Well, not OEM I should say, but the wiring harness itself. I didn't want to hack it. I mean, you know, maybe later down the road if I do decide to change up the gauge placement, having these extra wires, I'll still be able to do it. But yeah, and then we went ahead and that's the turn signals left and right, as well as the high beam indicator. These are their separate harnesses. Again, they have the the plug style, so if I need to change a single light, all I can do is unplug it and then, you know, be good to go. Yeah, this right here, this long wire right here that seems to keep on going, this is going to be connected to the wideband. I didn't even touch. I just left it whatever the length that came with, just because I need to figure out how to route it on my car. So here it is, guys, completed. The next video is going to be the install video. I'm going to show you how to get to the gauge cluster if you don't already know how to do it. And yeah, fun times. We were almost there. So hope you enjoyed this video. Part 3 is going to be the install, and look forward to seeing you guys watch that one. Deuce.